Over 5 million engines have been flagged for failure-related issues in recent years. Toyota Tundra, 5.6 engines seizing from machining debris. Honda recalling 250,000 V6 engines for connecting rod failures. GM investigating 721,000 trucks for engine flaws. Hyundai Kia facing a potential $5 billion headache from engine defects. And a massive chunk of these failures trace back to one silent killer that has been building up inside your engine since the day you drove it off the lot. Carbon deposits, the black, crusty buildup that chokes your intake valves, destroys your turbocharger, and slowly murders your engine's performance until one day it just does not start. Now here is what is interesting. While American SUV owners are paying $2,000 to $4,000 for emergency engine repairs, Japanese mechanics have been quietly using a carbon cleaning method that prevents these failures for a fraction of the cost. And it has been hiding in plain sight for over a decade. Today I am breaking down exactly what this method is, why it works, and how it could save your SUV from becoming a $50,000 paperweight in 2026. First, let us understand why your SUV engine is a ticking time bomb right now. Modern SUV engines are nothing like what your dad drove. To meet increasingly strict fuel economy and emissions regulations, automakers downsized engines, added turbochargers, switched to gasoline direct injection, and started using ultra-thin oils like 0W16 and 0W20 to reduce friction. These changes boost efficiency on paper. In reality, they have pushed engines right to their physical limits. And here is the critical part that nobody talks about. With traditional port fuel injection, gasoline sprayed directly onto the back of the intake valves. That fuel acted as a natural solvent, constantly washing away carbon deposits every time the engine ran. It was like your engine had a built-in cleaning system. Gasoline direct injection changed everything. With direct injection, fuel bypasses the intake valves entirely and is injected straight into the combustion chamber. Now, those intake valves are completely exposed. Oil vapors from the crankcase ventilation system, exhaust gas recirculation, and combustion byproducts all coat the back of those valves with a sticky, tar-like residue. With no fuel washing them clean, that residue bakes on, hardens, and builds up layer after layer after layer. One industry expert put it bluntly, gasoline direct injection systems are showing drivability issues related to carbon buildup on the intake valves as early as 3,000 miles. 3,000 miles on a brand new engine. Think about that. By the time your SUV hits 60,000 miles, those intake valves can look like they have been dipped in asphalt. Restricted airflow, misfires, rough idle, power loss, and eventually complete engine failure if it is ignored long enough. Now add a turbocharger to the equation, which almost every modern SUV has, and the problem gets exponentially worse. Turbocharged gasoline direct injection engines run higher cylinder pressures and temperatures. They produce more combustion byproducts. And when chunks of hardened carbon break off, they can destroy turbocharger vanes or catalytic converter substrates. You are looking at $2,500 to $4,000 in repair bills, and that is if you catch it early. If you do not, you are facing a full engine replacement. So what is the Japanese secret? It is actually a combination of three things that Japanese automakers and mechanics have perfected while the rest of the world was ignoring the problem. The first is Toyota's D4S dual injection system. While every other automaker was going all in on direct injection only, Toyota engineers looked at the carbon buildup problem and asked, why not use both? Starting as early as 2007 on Lexus models, Toyota developed a system called D4S, which stands for Direct Injection 4-Stroke Superior. It uses 2 sets of fuel injectors per cylinder, one for direct injection into the combustion chamber, and one for traditional port injection into the intake manifold. During low to medium engine loads, the system uses both injectors together or switches between them to create an optimal air-fuel mixture. During high loads, it relies on direct injection for maximum cooling and knock resistance. But here is the preventive part. Those port injectors spray fuel onto the back of the intake valves at regular intervals, washing away carbon deposits before they can build up. It is preventive maintenance built directly into the engine's DNA. Toyota rolled this out across their lineup: the Highlander, Tacoma, Camry, the 86, and GR86, and eventually the Tundra. Forum owners with Toyota D4S engines at 130,000 miles have pulled their intake manifolds and found valves that were practically spotless. Meanwhile, Kia Sorento owners are paying $1,000 for carbon cleaning at 100,000 miles, and Hyundai owners are documenting engine failures at 27,000 miles from carbon-related issues. One Kia owner with a 2017 Sorento spent $500 on a dealer cleaning, and it did not even fix the problem. The engine was still burning a quart of oil per week and eventually developed a misfire on cylinder 2 from seized valves. That is a potential engine replacement on a vehicle that is barely out of its warranty period. Ford, Audi, and others have since copied this dual injection approach. But Toyota was doing it for years before anyone else even acknowledged the problem existed. The second piece of the Japanese secret is hydrogen carbon cleaning technology. This is where things get really fascinating. In Japan and across parts of Europe and Asia, mechanics have been using a process called HHO, carbon cleaning, since roughly 2010. Here is how it works. A specialized machine uses electrolysis to split water into hydrogen and oxygen gas. That gas mixture is fed into your engine's air intake while the engine idles. When the hydrogen enters the combustion chamber, it burns at a significantly higher temperature than gasoline or diesel. That elevated heat creates a controlled reaction that essentially vaporizes baked-on carbon deposits. The carbon transforms into a gaseous hydrocarbon, which then exits through the exhaust system. No engine disassembly, no harsh chemicals, no damage to engine components. The entire process takes about 30 to 60 minutes and costs between $100 and $200 at shops that offer it. And the results are immediate. Customer surveys from companies offering this service show that 85% of users report smoother engine operation after a single treatment. Fleet operators have documented a 40% drop in engine-related breakdowns and a 20% improvement in acceleration times after implementing regular hydrogen carbon cleaning. One fleet operator in Canada documented their results after implementing hydrogen carbon cleaning across their bus fleet. They saw a 50% reduction in failure rates during emissions testing, and NOx emissions dropped by up to 35%. For individual SUV owners, that translates directly into passing state emissions inspections, better fuel economy, and an engine that does not shake itself apart at a red light. Compare that to walnut blasting, the other common method of removing carbon deposits. Walnut blasting is effective. It uses crushed walnut shells propelled by compressed air to physically blast carbon off intake valves and ports. The walnut shells are softer than metal, so they will not damage engine components. But here is the catch. Walnut blasting requires removing the intake manifold. That means 4 to 10 hours of labor, depending on the vehicle. Shop costs range from $500 to $1,500 for most SUVs, and some dealers charge up to $2,800 for V8 and V10 engines. Walnut blasting only cleans the intake side. It does not touch carbon in the combustion chamber, on the pistons, the turbocharger, the EGR valve, or the diesel particulate filter. Hydrogen carbon cleaning reaches all of those areas because the gas flows through the entire engine. That is a massive advantage, especially for turbocharged SUVs, where carbon accumulates in places you physically cannot reach without major disassembly. The third part of the Japanese approach isn't a technology at all, it's a culture. Japan has one of the most rigorous vehicle inspection systems in the world, called Kaizen. Every vehicle on Japanese roads must pass this comprehensive inspection every 2 years. It covers everything from brake efficiency and wheel alignment to exhaust emissions testing, where inspectors measure carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon levels coming out of your tailpipe. Vehicles under 10 years old cannot exceed 1% carbon monoxide and 300 parts per million of unburned hydrocarbons. If your engine has excessive carbon buildup, those numbers climb, and you fail the inspection. Your cars cannot legally be driven on public roads until it passes. The typical cost for a Kaizen inspection runs between $800 and $1,600, and that often includes maintenance items mechanics identify during the process. Because failing is so expensive and the consequences so severe, Japanese car owners maintain their vehicles religiously. Regular oil changes, premium fuel, proactive carbon cleaning. It's baked into the ownership culture. As vehicles get older in Japan, maintaining them to these standards becomes increasingly expensive. Most Japanese vehicle owners do not do their own mechanical work, so mechanics can charge premium prices. The result is that many Japanese owners sell their vehicles before the next Kaizen is due, flooding the export market with meticulously maintained, low-mileage vehicles. This is why a 5-year-old Japanese domestic market SUV often looks and runs better than a 2-year-old American equivalent. The maintenance was never optional over there. It was mandatory. So, here is what you can actually do right now to protect your SUV engine. If you want to go the preventive route and you are shopping for a new SUV, look for models with dual injection systems. Toyota and Lexus have the most mature implementation with D4S. Ford EcoBoost engines in recent years have added port injectors alongside direct injection. These systems dramatically reduce carbon buildup from day one. If you already own a GD SUV, do not panic, but do not ignore the problem either. Use top-tier gasoline every single time. Top-tier fuels contain higher concentrations of detergent additives that help keep your fuel injectors clean. They will not eliminate carbon on the intake valves, but they prevent additional contamination from dirty injectors, making the problem worse. Change your oil more frequently than the manufacturer suggests. The manual might say every 7,500 miles. Drop that to 5,000 or even 4,000 miles if you do a lot of short trips or city driving. Short trips are the absolute worst for GDI engines because the engine never fully warms up, moisture builds, and carbon deposits accumulate much faster. Use an SN Plus rated full synthetic oil. These oils are specifically formulated for direct injection engines and have lower volatility, meaning fewer oil vapors enter the crankcase ventilation system and coat your intake valves. Consider a CRC GDI INTI valve cleaner or similar product every 10,000 miles. You spray it into the intake while the engine runs, and it helps dissolve some of the softer carbon deposits before they harden. It is not a miracle cure, but used consistently, it slows the buildup significantly. And if your SUV has more than 30,000 miles and has never had a carbon cleaning service, strongly consider either a hydrogen carbon cleaning or a walnut blast. Industry experts recommend performing a thorough cleaning every 20,000 to 30,000 miles on GDI engines. Think of it the same way you think about replacing brake pads or changing transmission fluid. It is not optional maintenance, it is essential. Hey, before we wrap up, if you're finding this useful, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Here's the bottom line. The 2026 engine failure crisis is not some hypothetical scare tactic. It is happening right now. Automakers pushed engines smaller, hotter, and harder to meet emissions targets, and carbon buildup became the inevitable consequence that most of them chose to ignore. Japanese engineers and mechanics did not ignore it. They engineered around it with dual injection, they embraced hydrogen cleaning technology before it was trendy, and they built an inspection culture that forces owners to address the problem before it becomes catastrophic. You do not need to move to Tokyo or buy exclusively Japanese vehicles to benefit from this knowledge. You just need to understand that your gasoline direct injection turbocharged SUV engine needs carbon maintenance the same way your teeth need regular cleaning. Ignore it long enough and you are not going to like the bill. That is all for today. I hope you found this valuable, and if you have not done it so far, please hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you do not miss our next breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.